All right, everyone. As the southern border continues to be basically a chunk of Swiss cheese, there's really no attempt by the federal government to guard the U.S. southern border. Mayorkas is being impeached by the House Republicans. Now, they've got a very, very narrow majority there, but they have advanced the articles. It looks like they will go through. We'll wait and see, though. Of course, the Republican Party is known for having the advantage and then throwing it away in order to lose and hit itself in the face and then flail impotently. They enjoy this. I'm beginning to think that they're the party of masochism specifically. Masochism is the Republican sexual fetish writ large. Sure, there are some members of Congress there that have a little dungeon, and they call in Elvira with her whips and her chains, and they have a really great time being peed on and weird shit like that. They're Republicans. What more proof do we need? Some weird shit going on there in D.C. And Cawthorn there tried to warn us about some of the stuff that was going on. Got jostled off on his merry way, and then he got evinced in his claims not long after, and he must be having a real one. Mayorkas will probably be successfully, he won't be removed. What I would like to point out is that Biden's nuts to keep him on because he has the perfect fall guy for the border crisis. All he has to do is say, okay, yeah, come on, man. I wasn't the one that caused the border crisis. Mayorkas answered to me. He's the one fundamentally responsible, Department of Homeland Security. He's the one responsible mainly for the operations there. And so I've accepted his resignation. My apologies. Choose better next time. That's all Biden has to do in order to blame shift the whole thing. It's like with Obama. Obama did this successfully on several occasions. He blamed Lois Lerner for the IRS scandal, for example. Now, if you think that that was done without Obama's knowledge and consent, then you're naive. Clearly, Obama would have known that the IRS under Lois Lerner was explicitly and specifically denying requests for nonprofit status for groups that were associated with the anti-neocon right and the anti-neoliberal left, which is the truth. It was both. Most people only focus on the Tea Party affiliated groups and how they got screwed. There were a bunch of progressive groups on that too. I've addressed that before. That got memory hold. Obama successfully blame shifted. Well, I've accepted Lois Lerner's resignation. Okay, said the journal class and pretty much everyone in soccer mom America. That's plausible. The IRS director just went completely rogue, and Obama knew absolutely nothing about it, despite the fact that he got regular briefings from this individual. He was never told. He was completely unaware of what was going on. At the time, I pointed out, well, that either means that he's incompetent, he doesn't know what's going on, he's incompetent, or he's evil and he's lying, he did know what was going on. The same would be true if Mayorkas gets sacked. It's a middleman approach. You fire this middleman and you blame him for all the problems going on. But Biden's not doing that. He's standing by his guy. He didn't learn so well from his mentor in the pragmatic political sense. And so he's still got Mayorkas back. But most Americans, a supermajority of them, disapprove of the job that the Biden admin is doing on immigration. A supermajority. This is virtually all Republicans, a significant majority of independents, and at least a sizable minority of registered Democrats. That's a lot of voters, by the way. It's probably about 70% of the population. In fact, I think it's pretty close to that in the polling aggregate, or at least somewhere in the 60s. It is a supermajority of Americans that understand that the U.S. southern border right now is out of control. Right now, you have half of the states in the country signing on with Texas to say, fuck the Biden administration, you're not doing your job, we'll do it for you. I believe it was 10 states as of yesterday had sent state guard down to Texas. You have private militia groups mobilizing and going to Texas. You have activistic groups massing in Texas. People are actually trying to solve the problem because they've lost their patience with the Biden administration. Honestly, for politically pragmatic reasons, I don't get at this point why the Biden admin keeps Mayorkas on and doesn't make him the whipping boy. Does Mayorkas have some sort of dirt on the Biden family or something like that? Are you afraid that he'll write a scathing memoir? Oh, but he'll write a Substack article. Oh, I was fired, but it wasn't actually my fault. Biden told me specific. Here's a recording of Biden specifically telling me to ignore the border crisis because he wants more slaves in the country or something like that. By the way, again, a third of unaccompanied minors that came to the United States in the same last few years are unaccounted for. That is that the person who signed up to take them into custody never called. The ICE can't make contact with them. These kids, tens of thousands of children are being trafficked, sex trafficked right now, hundreds of thousands by now, actually, or being worked to death in sweatshops, or neglected, or they're already dead. And it's rather sad. When you take in someone's huddled masses, you're trying to make their life better, not get them killed by cartel members or raped repeatedly. It's normally not the goal when if you're going to point, when liberals point to the Statue of Liberty and say, with a tear in their eye, that's the America that I want. Okay, that's perfectly fine. First, put them up in your house because you've got like a fifth bedroom in your Martha's Vineyard, cottage house, let alone your McMansion. You've got the money, you've got the room. You take them in and shut the fuck up and prevent cartel members from raping the kids. That would be wonderful now, wouldn't it? It's not being done, though. I expect Big Daddy government to pay for the migrants that are coming in. Over 10,000 people a day, most days, by the way. It's the size of a decent-sized town. It's not sustainable. That's like replacement demographic levels. And then the NIMBYs say, well, they should come into the country, but they should stay down there in the south, near the border where they belong. It's their natural habitat. So they refer to them as goddamn animals sometimes. You see the same thing when a black person speaks out against the Democratic Party. Look at the racial slurs fly. All of a sudden, it ain't people of color anymore. They invert that, and it sounds like it's 1975 or something. And Mayorkas is pissed about this, by the way. He's lashing out. He's flailing. He's like, well, I did nothing wrong. This isn't fair. It's just political theater. Dude, the border is a mess. You quite self-evidently haven't done your job. Even if you are treated as a fall guy for a sick administration that throws you under the bus, you still deserve to be fired. I mean, it's not wrong. You can't possibly look at the border today, at the crisis emerging there, especially in Texas, and claim that it's anything but chaos. It would be disingenuous. It would be cognitive dissonance at its worst if you were to claim otherwise. There's no other explanation for it. And again, these people, they by and large, they don't have a problem with it until it becomes their crisis. Some Chicago liberal living in the gated community out in the burbs, outside of Chi-Com town itself, it's like, I think that we should import more diversity into the country. Otherwise, it'll be boring. But then when the diversity comes next door and the migrant shelter is 2 blocks away, right in the way of where their kids have to walk to school, all of a sudden they begin locking their doors at night real tight. I think I need to get one of those fucking Ring cameras, man. I've always been anti-gun, but I'll make an exception. I'm going to become a law-abiding gun owner. It's literally the way that these people think, by the way. Again, I've interacted with them before. Joe Biden is fundamentally responsible for the border crisis. Mayorkas answers to him. But Mayorkas still deserves to be fired. At the bare minimum, he should have the balls, the courage to come out and crucify his boss and say, look, I've been muzzled by my boss, by the President of the United States, whose authority I cannot supersede. He's not letting me do my job. That's what he should do. If he really wanted to become legend, all he has to do is throw Joe under the bus, because that it's Joe and his inner circle that are commanding Mayorkas to begin with. I don't think that Mayorkas wouldn't like to do his job and be remembered as not a complete fucking failure. He's an egotist like everyone else in D.C. He's not being allowed to. He still deserves to be fired for cowardice, if not for malevolence. That's about all. Peace out.